right, Alexa, thank you. Well, talking to teens, what they aren't telling their parents. Our series continues today, and we are talking about sex. Licensed counselor Charity Hagains is also joining me here this morning. She's going to offer a roadmap of sorts as we begin to deal with any number of issues. But we have both a male and female perspective here. We want to begin with a young man who struggled with what he calls an addiction to pornography. Have a look.
Hi, my name is Cole Williams, and I'm here to talk about my issue with viewing inappropriate content on the internet. The first time I became interested in pornography was when I was 10 years old. I was actually downloading music, and a pop-up appeared on my screen, and it read, come see this website, and it had a picture of a nude woman on it, and I was interested. I looked at this content online for about 2 or 3 years before my mom actually caught me. What disturbed me the most whenever I first had the problem is that guys in the locker rooms were talking about it in my 8th grade football team, and it came up all the time, and it was disturbing because guys were telling me different ways they would do it, all these other nasty details that I didn't need to know. And now that they were seeing pornography, they wanted to engage in sexual acts with women of their age, and it became very startling for me because I recognized that it was very, very grim. It wasn't a positive thing. People didn't look at pornography as a bad thing. They looked at it as positive, and I didn't like it at all.
Got to give Cole Williams credit for talking about this very difficult issue. I know for teenagers to admit that they might have fallen into that trap. So let's talk about this, Charity, the pervasiveness of pornography and access to it. I don't think it's anything new for a young boy to have some curiosity or interest in pornography dating back. It's probably timeless, but the access to it and the pervasiveness of it because of the internet is really catching hold, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so accessible and so available to teenagers, and it's really difficult for parents to monitor, whereas before it was maybe just going in and cleaning out their children's room to sort of find out what was going on. Now you have to really be, a computer investigator to figure out what they're looking at on the internet.
And if they find themselves in a place where more young men are looking at this stuff online, then they seem to think about acting it out for real, and that's what he was talking about, that peer pressure that might be heaped upon you in the locker room, for example. Right.
Well, and if you're looking at this every day, all of your energy is going into this, and it becomes a coping mechanism for you. And then you get around your friends and everybody's talking about it and normalizing it for you. It becomes a main focus of your life. We don't want to generalize here that it's young men who are always the aggressors, because that's not always the case. But in this particular, for the sake of this discussion, that is most predominant. And so now we want to turn the tide here and hear a female perspective. Let's listen to this.
I'm Lee McGill. I'm 17. I'm a senior at Plano Senior High School, and I've had struggle with sexual encounters and sexual relationships. At my school, it's like losing your phone is crazier than losing your virginity. I never felt good enough for anyone, and I never felt good enough or pretty enough or smart enough or anything, and all of a sudden, I guess guys were kind of there, and then they would tell you the things that you want to hear, and I believed them, but I guess now looking back on it, I'm like, okay, that wasn't real. They would pretend to really like you and stuff like that, and then they would take you on a date or something, and then they would expect something out of it. They'd be like, well, since I took you out, you have to do this for me. And I'm one of those people who has a lot of problems saying no. I like everyone to be happy. I don't know, I always feel really bad when other people are upset. So, I would end up doing it because I didn't know what else to do. And then after that, I would feel so bad, and I would cry myself to sleep and stuff.
So it's a cycle she's talking about that starts with the pressure, but it also starts at home. You've got the young men who, if you're not talking with your parents about it, are becoming the aggressors in this case, again, for the sake of this discussion. And then she's not feeling like she can say no.
Right. Well, and our society puts a lot of pressure on boys to want sex and girls to turn away from that. And we don't talk about it enough at home. We just say abstinence, or we don't say anything at all, and so we're not really educating these girls on how to handle that kind of pressure and how to find their own self-esteem and identity separate from maybe a relationship or a sexual identity.
And what I gather from this, it's like a date just isn't a date anymore. Like just getting familiar with somebody doesn't seem to be enough.
Yeah. Well, I think that they're pressured to go further and further and further. And I think that's where you find, like she was saying, it's very difficult to leave that situation and feel good about yourself because you feel like you did something that you didn't want to do that wasn't for you, and that can have lasting effects into adulthood.
Okay, so let's talk here about any parent who's sitting at home. We heard Cole say at 10 years old he was introduced to pornography online while downloading music.
Yeah.
And then in 8th grade there was pressure to approach girls for sex. So we're talking about kids who are anywhere from 10 to 13 years old.
Sure.
How do you have the discussion? What's the first thing you say?
I think it's that you have it all the time. It's that it's not
it's
a
an ongoing dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. You don't take anything off the table, and you make it more normal for them so that it's not odd. And if you start young, if you start at 10, you know, obviously you want to be very careful about what you're saying, but if you start early, it's easier for them to accept that later on when they have the big stuff to talk to you about.
Don't we sort of have a foundation in this country of being culturally inhibited when it comes to sex, whereas in Europe it's a whole different thing, talking to children earlier about sex and making it seem like it's not something to be ashamed of and it's not a taboo topic.
Definitely, and we need to embrace that. You know, the more that we say that this is a normal, healthy part of life, the same way that eating your vegetables and everything else is, you know, and we talk about it regularly with them, it won't feel strange when they're 16 and they say, hey, I have some real pressures, I have some real questions that I need to talk to you about.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but communication. And if you're wondering where we found these teenagers, to speak so candidly, they're part of a program that helps teens deal with a variety of issues. It's called Life Hurts, God Heals. It's at Chase Oaks Church in Plano. So our thanks to them. Our conversation continuing throughout the month. More topics to come, including divorce and depression. Charity Adams, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll be right back. Stay with us.